Do not adjust your screens. Do not adjust your TV set. Yes, it is us. Stoppage Time FC is back. I know we've been gone for a little bit, but we missed you, and I'm sure you missed us. Remember, Scene, SCEN_THE if you're on Twitter. Stoppage Time FC has his own Twitter page. Stoppage Time FC, all one word on Twitter. The Scene, THE.SCEN on Instagram. We're going to catch you up on everything that is going on in the last month in the world of beautiful game. Of course, to do that, I have Joe, I have Zach. Fellas, happy super belated New Year, I guess, to start things off. And what's going on?
Nothing much, man. We're just excited about soccer being in full swing and getting back on live and talking some soccer with you boys. It's been a while, man.
Yeah, it's been a while for sure. Zach, nothing too much going on in Stamford Bridge these days, you know.
No, it's pretty.
Nothing too much happening.
It's pretty quiet in London. I'm excited to be back, though. We got a lot to catch up on. We got a lot to talk about, and should be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Remember, also, Facebook has Stoppage Time FC is a Facebook group. Join the conversation. It's open, whether you're new to the game, whether you've been a veteran of the game. Love to get your thoughts. So, fellas, let's kind of we'll start with the Premier League. Let's kind of start with what we know best. Let's make it easy. As we are taping this today, Joe's Man City club is now first. A point up on Manchester United at the halfway stretch, which are pretty much at this point. Zach's Chelsea team has changed manager since the last time we were here. They have a manager in 10th place, but honestly, in this very topsy-turvy league, it's not really a big deal. I think we're only 5 points out of a Champions League spot. So just Joe, we'll go Joe, and then we'll just go Zach, man. In the last month, your thoughts on what's kind of going on with your respective clubs?
Super excited to see my team playing like the Man City I know and have loved watching the past couple of years. They got back to scoring some goals today. They played West Brom and put 5 up on them, 4 in the first half. And unlike the past couple seasons, they have been just playing extremely well on the defensive end. Our new signing that we brought in over the summer, Ruben Diaz, has been a godsend. He has been the center back that we've been looking for since Vincent Kompany decided to leave and retire and hang up his boots. Shockingly, though, it's not been the partnership we expected. We were thinking it would be Ruben Diaz and Aymeric Laporte being the lockdown center back pairing, but out of nowhere, Mr. John Stones, who's been in the doghouse of Pep Guardiola and City fans for a while, has resurrected himself, and the two of them have formed the best partnership in the Premier League that we've seen for the past 12 games or so. They have been lights out. They've played 12 games together, and they have 11 clean sheets as a partnership and have only conceded a single goal in those 12 games. So they have been, those two in particular, along with the rest of the team, have played extremely, extremely well. Earlier in the season, the problem was goals. They weren't manufacturing goals like they were accustomed to. That problem has been solved. They've been putting up goals recently, and they have the best defensive record in the league. They've only conceded 13 goals out of 19 games. So they are on fire right now. Minor setback from last week's game. We lost Kevin De Bruyne for 4 to 6 weeks. So he is probably looking to be back and returning at the end of February, maybe for the first Champions League match, coming back out of the break from that. But Ilkay Gundogan and Phil Foden and Bernardo Silva, all in midfield, have risen their level of play and have been just dominating lately. So I'm excited. It's been so much fun to watch them play recently.
Ruben Diaz right now, if I was picking Premier League Player of the Year, he's probably the lead candidate at this point. It's rare that center backs get the nod at Player of the Year, but Joe, I think you talked about he's been such the difference in that team and kind of rallying them back to first place. I think if he's not number one for the Player of the Year, he's in the top three. He's in the final three as of today. Let's swing this over. I guess this would be south on the screen. It's also south geographically, over to London. Zach, interesting times at the bridge. Talk about what's going on with Chelsea Football Club.
Well, true to Roman Abramovich, he is not a manager or not an owner that does mid-table. You sit mid-table, and that's an omen for a bad day. It doesn't matter what kind of club legend you are, you don't get a pass. And especially when you spend as much money as they did this year to strengthen the squad, you don't get that pass. And so, Chelsea have fired Frank Lampard, albeit against what the fans wanted. And I tend to agree. I wasn't a huge fan of the firing. I think he still needed more time. I think Chelsea actually might have made too many additions. And I know that that's kind of crazy to think about, but you take a team they finished fourth last year, secured the Champions League spot under a transfer ban after losing their best player. They played a lot of youth. They played a lot of veterans that they trusted. And they turn around and add, five that I know of off the top of my head, new starters. And that's damn near half your squad. I mean, that is half of your outfield players if you don't include the goalie. So that's a lot to change all at once. I think the problem with Frank was that he didn't have any identity. He had all these superstars. I use the term superstars loosely. Like they're great players. Most of them aren't quite to that superstar level, internationally wise anyway. And they just couldn't mesh, couldn't find their groove. We've seen it time and time again. Really good players in different leagues go to the Premier League and they struggle. It's just a different world. It's a different style of play. It's a different feel. It's a different vibe. And I think Frank needed time. He needed time to find that identity. But I think what Roman was saying is that he's had almost a year and a half now, 18 months that he's been the manager at Chelsea. If he hasn't found an identity yet, I don't know if he will. So, we look back at Frank Lampard and his tenure at Chelsea as manager, and the big knock on him coming into that job was it too soon? He had only managed, Derby County for 1 year. That's a championship level team. And you want to thrust him into one of the premier clubs in England. And that's big shoes to fill, even for, the club legend that he is. So they fire him. They bring in most expeditiously Thomas Tuchel.
That was quick.
Real quick. Which makes me lead to believe that they knew this quite a while ago. And rumors had it that Tuchel had already offered his services to Chelsea, but he wanted to come in the summer, not in January. And when, the Chelsea slid and they managed 7 points out of 24, Roman and Mariana probably gave Thomas a call and said, "Hey, come here. We're going to need you to quarantine now. We're going to need you to file for an exemption with the FA so we can get you in here and get you started today." Because that was surprising. When Edison Cavani signed as a free agent for United, the FA still made him quarantine, and that's why he wasn't available to them right away. The FA said that I guess because he's a manager and he's not a player, he's different.
Yeah,
or maybe
I'm sure knowing if if this win is as you say, they probably told him 10 days ago, hey, this is probably gonna happen in about 2 weeks. Why don't you have a seat? For 10 days. We'll call you.
And so, he signed an 18-month contract with an optional year, which is kind of ominous given the 18-month mark and the history of Chelsea. It's usually about that year and a half where you see managers part ways. I like Tuchel from a standpoint of what he brings Chelsea. Diving into his stats, and I realize that PSG sacked him. I'm not really sure why. It's not like they weren't winning league titles. Yeah, they weren't winning the Champions League, but I mean, how many teams don't win a Champions League every year? And it's not like PSG is knocking down the door every single year in the finals. So you bring a guy like Tuchel in, who historically is a possession-oriented coach. He managed 62% while at Dortmund of possession, which is unheard of. That's a lot. And he did it all while taking quality shots. So he's not the guy that just wants you to pepper the goalie with shot after shot after shot. He wants quality shots. He wants good shots. And he's going to make you chase the ball around. And that's what everybody loves. They love that beautiful tiki-taka, pass after pass after pass kind of style. Well, that's what Tuchel represents, and that's what he's done well at. He did it at Mainz before he went to Dortmund. He did it at Dortmund, and he did it at PSG. The interesting thing is his connection to Chelsea players already. He's the one who gave Christian Pulisic his senior league debut at Dortmund, his European competition debut, and also his Champions League debut. So he obviously likes what Pulisic represents, what the talent that he brings. He also coached Thiago Silva at PSG. So, having that familiarity will help integrate that system a lot quicker, I think. What it'll do for Pulisic, it'll allow him to roam a little bit more in the middle and be more creative. So that'll help. But he's got to hit the ground running. He's got a stretch in the next 6 games that's not great, but they're all must wins.
Right. And I think if you look at for all of our clubs, obviously different levels. The month of February is now when you get the European competition back into play. Champions League resumes in February. The Europa League resumes in February. Obviously, both of your clubs have advanced to the next round of the Champions League. I'm in the next round of Europa. So now we already talk about a fixture list that was really tight for Christmas. And it's only going to get tighter come February. And now it'll be interesting with Tuchel to see, does he have enough training time, practice time to really implement what he wants with a fixture list that's going to be really tight. You're going to have to probably use more of your squad than the usual. So it's a very interesting move, and I think I want you to get Joe. I want you to get some input into this too, and Zach certainly. Take the club legend part. I'm gonna put it this. It's hard to separate Frank Lampard, club legend, and Frank Lampard, the manager, for Chelsea fans. Like some of the things I've read, Twitter, YouTube, the last couple of days, I think this would go very different if there was not a pandemic. I think if this was fans in the stands, no lockdown, I think this would go over. This would have gone over so much worse with that. So, Joe, Zach, definitely step in.
Yeah, I mean, and it could have gone poorly for him too if they were not doing well in having fans in the stadium. That could have put even more pressure on the move, I think, because if the fans are unhappy and they're vocal about it during games on nationally televised games and everything like that, I think that just creates even more of a situation. So right now, just having fans on social media and, the sites and things like that, I might have, calmed it down a little bit, but definitely not having fans in the stadium, I think big impact for sure, just because the boos, the pressure that they might have been getting from their home fans if when the results were not coming the way they wanted, I think could have exacerbated the situation.
And Zach, you could talk about this because you're obviously a Chelsea fan. Frank Lampard is arguably, he might even be arguably, he's the greatest player in the history of Chelsea. And if he's not one, he's two, maybe three on a bad day. But he is truly the definition of a club legend. And it just seems like the reaction to it, yes, we could talk about, yes, it's a results-based business, but because he is such a major guy in that club, it seems like, yes, the results weren't great and the team is in 10th and it's not going well. It even still feels kind of like there is a level of unhappiness with the move, even if you say the results are the results, because he's just such a major figure with the club. Like like I said, one of the best player or one of the second best player in the history of the club. How do you, as a Chelsea fan, a guy who grew up with Lampard as your guy, results to the side, how do you honestly feel about
it? When you think of Chelsea, the first name that probably comes to mind is Frank Lampard. I mean, the man is Mr. Chelsea. John Terry gets mentioned a lot, but not for me. And I'm traditionally a defender. Like, so for me, when you think of Chelsea, you think of Frank Lampard. Yeah, they've had some historic names come through that club. Many of which probably are a better player than Frank, but not at the consistent level and the IQ level of what Frank possessed. A lot of people never really gave him the credit that he deserved as far as his IQ level in that game. And so, if I'm a Chelsea, I'm a Chelsea fan. So sometimes it is hard to differentiate between, okay, how do I navigate this as an objective mind as opposed to a fan? And for me, and that's kind of what I talked about a little bit ago, is that you look back at this hiring and it probably was too soon for Frank. But if I'm Frank, how do you turn that down? Chelsea comes knocking. How do you turn that down? Like, you don't. And so it was a bad situation. And truthfully, he probably would have been better off had they not made the Champions League last year. Had they finished, 5th or 6th, maybe made the Europa League, everybody would have understood because he was under a transfer ban, But he came into this, he overachieved.
Yeah, it was almost like he was a victim of his own success.
Yes, and so
raised the expectation level for this year. So
yeah, and that's what happened. And then you have those high expectations off of an already lofty goal. You inject, the 100+ million net money that they spent, 220 actual spent this summer, but it equals out to a little over 100. And you have damn near unrealistic expectations. And so I think, to Joe's credit, he said that, not having the fans in the stands might have helped the situation. But I also think it might have hurt the situation, because just as we know that fans can be the quick to anger and boo when results aren't there, they're also quick to rally behind and help you during those times where you need that goal, you need that clutch stop. And so Chelsea fans historically always supported Frank, and they showed this week, before the firing, they hung a banner in the stadium, in his support. So while I think part of it is the fans probably trying to save, save the legacy that Frank has and throwing support behind him because they don't want anything to tarnish his name. I also think that they truly did support him and they truly do wish that he had gotten more time. So for what it's worth, I think it's just a slippery slope that nobody wants to navigate. And I had posted this in the group. There is nothing that Frank Lampard could have done short of us getting relegated that ever could have tarnished his career, both player or manager at Chelsea. So, we navigate this the best we can. And Roman said it, he's always welcome in Stamford Bridge with welcome arms and always will be. And you move on and hope for the best with Tuchel.
Now, speaking of fans not being in the stands, and we here at Stoppage Time, we try to be very humble about that, right? We don't brag too much. However, this one, we were all right on. We told you all in the Premier League preview, we said there was one team who, having no fans in the stands, was going to affect more than anybody at the top of the table, and that was Liverpool. And sure enough, as we sit here today, January 26th, as we are taping this, Liverpool is currently, Joe, I think you have it in front of you. Are they currently fifth?
Fifth with 34 points, and they do not have a win in their last 5 Premier League games. 2 losses and 3 ties.
Fifth in the table with Tottenham on Thursday, upstart West Ham on Sunday.
The 2 teams right next to them in the table. West Ham's right above them, and Tottenham's right below them.
Right, 4 and 6 in the table. Their struggles have been. It's not surprising though. It's everything that went in their favor for the last 2 seasons eventually evens itself out. No fans in the stands. Anfield is worth a point with fans in the crowd. That's a point in your favor.
Easily, especially with their home field, their home pitch advantage. Like they have by far the best.
They have the biggest home stadium, whatever you want to call it, advantage. Maybe in Europe, they have the biggest advantage. That's one. Injuries. They have been relatively healthy for 2 years.
Remarkably healthy. We talked about that early on, like historically healthy with all their best players.
Historically healthy for the last 2 years. That has all come crashing where they're having what City had last year, where every center back is hurt all at the same time. And then you have their big 3 who have struggled to put the ball in the net for about 6 weeks with Mane, Salah, Firmino. So I guess, fellas, rapid fire, quick question. How much trouble are they in? And when I say how much trouble are there, do they have any hope? Because I think as of today, I think they are what? Are they 4 points behind Man City?
They are 7 out of first place, but they are only 1 behind West Ham and a game in hand. So Leicester and Man United are in 2nd and 3rd place on the same number of games played. So with a win or a draw, they are back into a Champions League spot. So I think
okay, well, it's like that,
Joe.
Joe, how much trouble are they in?
I don't think all is lost because they still have those 3 guys. I think if they can figure it out, but their issue at this point is they're not as solid defensively as they have been in the past, and they just haven't been as dynamic going forward because they don't have that back 4 that they were running out pretty much every single game to give those attackers confidence to press like they usually do. That's one of the biggest things that helped the Liverpool defense in the past was Mane, Firmino, and Salah were just pressing the heck out of everybody. And they were just and their midfielders were all up the pitch and just closing down anytime there was a turnover, they were quick to jump on it. And they were able to do that because they had confidence that their back 4 would clean up any errors that they might have made. They don't have that anymore. There is no confidence that those guys that are back there are going to be able to do the job like Van Dijk and Gomez and Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson were doing as a group of four. So I don't think all is lost because they still have a bunch of studs and they're really not that far back. And like I was telling you guys pre-show, that there are teams all over the Premier League that have different games played. So there are points to be had and made up all over the place from teams. So we're going to see a lot of fluctuation in this table going forward in the next month or so when teams start making up those games. So I don't think all is lost, but the panic button is definitely starting to reach a little bit more now that we're a little bit past halfway through the season. And there really isn't any help on the way because they're not signing anybody probably in the next 4 days. The January transfer window has been very quiet, and I don't see them going to get anybody in the next couple of days. So I don't think there's reinforcements coming, and their big guns in the back are not due back anytime soon. So they're going to have to ride with what the guys that they got right now.
I think the honeymoon is over for Liverpool. I think the reality of real world football and injuries and the normalcies that most clubs face is here. And truthfully, I think the name that they missed most is Diogo Jota.
Mm-hmm.
There for a while there was a joke running that they were going to put Firmino at center back because he wasn't producing goals. So
it was. Drop him out.
So not having him for an extended period of time has really hurt them. And like Joe said, I don't think all is lost. I think when the smoke clears and the season winds down, Liverpool will be there. They'll be in the championship spots. But I don't know unless they get healthy real quick that they'll be able to catch City.
I don't see them catching City. I think because of everything that you all have stated, and I think City is not a team that you're gonna make up 7 points on. Once the 7-point gap is established, they're not gonna give you 7 points. They're in 20 games. Like you're gonna have to play. Like for Liverpool to be in a title race, they almost are going to have to win damn near every game to finish the season. Because I just don't see Chelsea. I mean, not Chelsea. I don't see City going on City's already had their dry spot. That was early. There's not going to be a second one later on. So I think the title is done for them. And right now, I only see, and again, it's only a 1-point gap. I get it. I only see United and maybe Leicester as the only two teams who I think can really stay in it. I think if City continues to keep rolling and stay healthy, I think that gap gets wider and wider by the time we get into like the next month, early March.
I mean, they're still missing Aguero because he picked up the virus, so that's why he's been out recently. He's tested positive for the virus, and no KDB for the next month probably. But the rest of the guys are all coming back. Laporte has been healthy, and they're just looking to get him match fitness. But most of the reason he hasn't been playing is because Diaz and Stones have been playing so well together. So at this point, City are definitely getting healthy at the right time, and they got their big guns coming back. So barring, knock on wood, any instances like last year where we just get hit with the injury bug, they are looking strong. And I was talking to my friend who's a City fan as well, one of my few fellow City fans that I can talk to. The change in City came about when Pep signed that extension. When he signed that 2-year extension, that's right around the same time that the light bulb switched and they turned around the results and they started scoring goals again, and the defense got where it was going. So kind of a under the radar, something I didn't pick up on until recently, that the run of form has increased since they locked up Pep to a the 18-month extension pretty much. So
fellas, let's kind of shift to the rest of Europe over these next 10, 15 minutes. And Zach, I want to come back to you because I know this is a point that you hit on in the Premier League, and it's definitely in the rest of the world. A very dry transfer window. Like, we know January is kind of a tough time to do business anyway, but be it the pandemic, be it whatever, not a lot happening in January. We've seen more loans. A lot of loan deals have gone, but like actual buys, not a whole lot going on in January. You think it's just a continued trickle down from the pandemic and teams are just super cautious with money right now?
I think that has a lot to do with it, to be honest. I think, like you said, January is historically pretty dry, comparatively to the summer. And so that, you see a lot of loan deals for players who aren't getting the playing time that they thought they were going to get. So they want to get, match fitness and playing time. So you've seen guys like Fikayo Tomori for Chelsea. He has gone to AC Milan to go there. Arsenal picked up, well, I don't think it's official yet, but they're picking up Martin Odegaard from Madrid, which is a fantastic pickup. I still really rate Odegaard. I think he's really good. He's been buried at Madrid, and I don't think he's Zidane's favorite. And we all know how managers play their favorites. So, that's something I know. For the life of me, his name's missing out, but United just finally got their is his name Diallo?
Yep.
Yeah, Diallo from is it Lazio? I want to say Lazio, but yeah.
It's one of the Italian clubs. So I know his deal was done a while ago, but I know it was visa or like work permit issues.
Right.
So I know that's finally crossed the line. We'll see how he comes along. The only known buy that I can think of is Gomez. Sevilla just bought Alexander Papua Gomez.
Yeah.
And that's a good pickup for them. I really like that. I think Gomez is highly underrated. He just wasn't getting the matches that he needed. So I think that's a good pickup for them. January has just been really, really dry.
And I think even clubs like your Man Cities and Paris Saint-Germain, who have tons of money, have really tightened the checkbook in January. So I think this is where roster depth comes into play, where teams like your roster is what it is right now. Like, there isn't help coming, so you have to really deal with what you have. I know, Joe, you talked about the Aguero missing for a while and maybe not having the striker depth that you want, but I think what you see is what you get with these rosters right now. This is what you're going to see from now until May. You just have to deal with it.
Exactly, and make your adjustments and alter your formations as needed and come up with a little bit different. That's where the manager is going to have to get paid, and the higher quality your manager is at this point is really going to come into play here at the end, because you're going to have to alter your tactics and come up with a lot of in-game adjustments to figure out how you're going to fix any of the issues that your team is having. So getting back to the drawing board, the whiteboard, and figuring out what's going to happen, because like we said, none of the big clubs, nobody's bringing in any major reinforcements at this point. Diallo is from Atalanta, by the way, guys. I just found that one.
Gomez is from Atalanta too, right?
I think so.
If memory serves me correct, I'm pretty sure he played at Atalanta as well.
So, but yeah, I mean, for us, for City, and again, he is. You're right. I just found it. Yep. For City, getting Aguero back eventually, whenever that is, at this point, is pretty much like a new signing, because he hasn't played more than 30 minutes or so for the whole season. So that would be huge for them at least. But
keep him on the bench.
I mean, he might just be super sub for the rest of the that's probably the best course of action.
Yeah,
I'm sure that
I wasn't saying that, you know, in a bad way. I really think that's his best role going forward for the rest of the season is to be, you know, make sure he gets that match fitness and then use him as that super sub role, because you have a guy like Aguero coming off the bench at, you know, the 70, 80, 85 minute mark. That's a potential game changer. And it's not like you're bringing in, right. You know, that's bad news for tired legs.
Yes, exactly.
And speaking of scoring, when we talk about the rest of Europe, one guy who it doesn't matter, he scores every week.
I think I know.
And that's in German. That's Germany. Robert Lewandowski, who just
continues to do what he does.
He's to me, like there are strikers I've liked better. Like I've liked Ronaldo, Thierry Henry, some of the all-time greats. But purely as a scorer, just put the ball in the net. He might be the best scorer I've ever seen. If just forget dribbles and fancy, just here's the ball, put it in the net. It is unbelievable the rate at which he can score.
He might be the most clinical finisher, at least in my lifetime, that I've ever seen. It doesn't matter who the manager is. It doesn't matter who his teammates are. You get the ball to Lewandowski in the final third of the field, and you're in trouble. Yeah. You are in trouble because the man just finds a way to put the ball in the back of the net, whether it's getting in behind the defense, whether it's creating, you know, give and goes. The dude just finds the net.
If he gets it in the box, I'm almost surprised when it doesn't go.
Mm-hmm. Like what did we call the Bundesliga at this point?
The Bayern Invitation.
Yeah.
You guys want to know their goal differential and how many goals they have scored compared to the rest of the league?
Sure.
I wouldn't be surprised to see their goal differential above 30 by now.
It's 28 right now, but that's because they've conceded more than they probably would like. They've conceded 25. However, they have scored 53 goals in the Bundesliga in 18 matches.
It's absurd.
And he has
next closest is 35 goals. So they've scored almost 20 goals more than the next closest competition.
And I think Lewandowski is already at 23. He's more than a goal a game right now. It's like 22 or 23 already
right now.
But he's
got 23 and 5 assists already through 17 matches played. So
I think he's the best scorer I've ever seen.
And he's doing it in his age 32 season. So he's starting to hit that point where guys typically start to
fall off
a little bit, but he's scoring at a better rate than he has in all of his other seasons so far. So
let's not act like this man wasn't cut from squads. He wasn't Messi, who came up, you know, through the ranks of the academy and was handed, you know, first league starts at a young age.
Right.
Lewandowski was cut and luckily grabbed on at Dortmund, I think.
Yep.
And then, you know, before going to Bayern. But, you know, you look at the you know, the consistent goal scorers in the world, and barring me saying Ronaldo, I'm not sure of another name that really holds a candle to his finishing ability.
As you were saying that, I can honestly, I mean, even though, I mean, like we know Messi has scored gobs of goals in his career, but just purely that instinct to just finish where it, like Ronaldo scored 2 goals in the game, but he'll miss a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Lewandowski doesn't miss anything. Like if he gets 4 shots in the game, 2 of them are going in the net.
Mm-hmm.
The other two are probably on target or close. Like he just doesn't. He is a machine.
He's gonna reach 40 again this year in goals in all competitions. That will be his 6th straight season with 40 plus goals.
If he doesn't win the Ballon d'Or this year, the man has officially been robbed.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is at his position. He is by far.
Yeah, he's that dude.
He's the best at in the world what he does. So the Bayern Invitational continues. Also, but though in Italy, we have seen. I was waiting on the fall off. I was waiting on like, okay, this is a cute story. This will end soon. AC Milan, I don't want to say it's completely back, but they're still there.
And Inter's right there behind him.
At the halfway point, both of them are still right there, hanging around that top spot. And
hell of a match today, if you saw it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Late winner, right?
Yeah. Well, Zlatan did what Zlatan does. He headbutted Lukaku, 1-up, gets sent off. Lukaku scores, and then Inter get another late goal, and win the. I think that's AC Milan's first loss.
Yeah.
They both have 2 now.
2.
Yep.
And I'm here for that. Like for those of us who grew up watching soccer, 90s, early 2000s, Inter versus AC Milan was absolutely it. Like if you could catch an AC Milan Inter match in the late 90s, early 2000s, that was as good as it got. So I'm glad that AC Milan is not only that they're hanging in and like that they're going to stick around, because I think the one thing is that I think kind of attracts us both to the Premier League, that the Premier League this year, I think you're going to have a really exciting title race.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I think City, I think is still a level above everybody. It's still a very topsy-turvy league. And title races are exciting. Like, it's no fun when, like, Liverpool walked in the league last year. That wasn't fun.
Nope.
Bayern walking the Bundesliga every year. That's not any fun. Juventus has won the Serie A, 9 years in a row?
Not this year.
They're sitting at number 4. They're
good.
They're 6 points back, 7 points back in Milan right now.
So it's title races are fun, and having matches in May that means something beyond waiting on the Champions League final.
Yeah.
So I'm here for that.
I like that Lukaku's found his home. Like
yeah,
the man has finally found a place where he thrives, and he is not Lewandowski level of finishing, but he's putting the ball in the back of the net on a very, very consistent basis. Very underrated and not getting enough credit due to the Italian league not getting the coverage that it should. But you look at every league around the world, and other than the Premier League, I think most of them are pretty handy. I think Atleti has a 7-point lead over second and has a game in hand.
Yeah, they
have a game in hand and they got 7 points on Real. So and they've won their last 5. So they've only given up 8 goals in 18 matches. So they are in sparkling form right now.
Is Madrid
Bad news
2?
for Chelsea.
Is Madrid 2?
Madrid's 2 and Barcelona's 3. So the cream are rising to the top with that league, but Atleti has got a game in hand on both of them, and a lot of the teams below Barcelona and Madrid are on 20 points. So it's gonna take a pretty epic collapse from Atletico for anybody to catch them at this point.
Okay, I'm fine with that too.
Because if they win, then they're 10 points clear of Real. With it on level games, they've only lost 1 game so far, so they're humming right now.
So with January getting ready to close, fellas, something we want to, as we get ready to close the show, and then January, the month of January, it's hard to believe we saying Happy New Year. Now the first month of the year is already about to be gone. Something for the people to look at, Joe, Zach, as we getting ready to head into February.
Champions League return.
Yeah, I was gonna say the big thing is the Champions League coming back towards mid-February. That's the big draw at this point. The leagues, the domestic cups for England and some of the other ones are kind of slowing down a little bit. But the big thing coming up in February is definitely the Champions League returns.
I think for me personally, these next 6 matches for Chelsea are going to be, huge to see how they able to stable the ship, or is it going to continue to spiral? For me personally, that's a really interesting thing, especially considering we have Atleti. We drew Atleti in the Champions League, so that's not. It was looking okay when we were on good form, and I felt comfortable with it being 2 legs, that we would at least be competitive. If they don't turn this form around, that's going to spell disaster for them.
Do you guys go to Spain first, or do they come to you guys?
Yeah, we go to Spain first, which is good. I actually like that. I prefer that, because they're going to play. Anytime a team gets a new manager, they play inspired.
True.
It doesn't matter, and that first Champions League match for that new manager is going to be, he's going to field a start barring injuries. He's going to field essentially what he did at PSG.
A really strong lineup. A really strong.
Tuchel just took all of his best players and just put them on the field. Damn the position.
Mm-hmm.
He just put them on the field and let them do what they do best. So, I think that's probably what we'll see a lot of Chelsea do coming up. My most interesting thing is, and I don't want to get accused of being a hater and a hate group for United, but I want to see how they keep this run of form. Looking at their fixtures, they've won a lot of games, but they haven't won a lot of games against great teams. I think they have one win against Everton. They drew against Leicester, I think. They drew against Liverpool, which, don't get me wrong, that's still points from top of the table teams, but they're not wins. Most of their wins are against mid to lower tier teams. So I want to see if this is for real.
Their biggest result was the FA Cup not recently this past weekend, knocking out Liverpool.
Yeah, but that doesn't count. Nobody cares about the FA Cup.
No, of course. No, I completely agree. I'm just saying that would be their claim to fame.
They're gonna have to your point, Zach, they're at some point gonna have to beat another title contender.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's City, whether it's Leicester, whether it's the return match against Tottenham, they're gonna have to beat somebody that's a contender. Like, I get it. You're trying to I get a point against another contender is never bad, but you have to beat somebody. And they have matches, they have opportunities in February against other team that's in this to make a statement. And I think they need to beat a Tottenham. They need to beat Leicester. They probably need to beat City.
They have to beat City. It's not enough for them to beat Tottenham. It's not enough for them to beat Leicester to win the league. They have to beat City. They have to beat Liverpool if they play them again. I don't know if they do.
Yeah. But those are the matches. And Joe, when City has won titles, they've beaten the better team.
Every time.
You beat Liverpool. You beat Chelsea. You beat Arsenal. You beat the better teams in the league. So I'm with you, Zach. That would be interesting to see if Man U is really about this. So
we're gonna find out soon.
We're gonna find out soon. So remember, Stoppage Time FC Facebook group, Stoppage Time FC, the Twitter. For y'all who are on Twitter, Stoppage Time FC is the Twitter. We will definitely be doing better with shows. I promise you all. We will be having more frequent shows, especially as we get into the Champions League, which is always interesting. So we definitely will have that. But thank you for joining us, Zach, Joe, Germaldo, our main man Germaldo behind the scenes holding us down. This is Stoppage Time FC. Good night.